Geoengineering Watch, Dave Whittington. But I wanted to spend this little short segment, then we have a 1 minute break where we join a bunch of stations to have you add anything else. You got the floor over 5 minutes that you think is important people know, Dane.
I'm going to back up to what you said right before the break, because you brought up some super important points. First, if there's any nuclear exchange at all, the ionizing radiation will strip away what little is left of the ozone layer that climate engineering and its various aspects have destroyed, and that's game over. You brought up CERN, another indication of the insanity of the power structure doing things that they don't understand the potential consequences of. And you brought up the trees. Thank you for that. No trees, no people. Very simple equation. Trees are tanking all over the globe. Again, as you correctly mentioned, Alex, soil microbiome being wiped out, and the so-called experts not talking about this. They talk about beetles destroying trees. Beetles are a symptom of a sick, dead, dying tree. And Alex, as I'm sure you've seen, every time the wind blows, trees are tipping over everywhere because the root systems are dying off for the reasons you cited. The root balls are drying out. You're completely correct. And trees hundreds of years old. And the tree die-off is so severe that the current study for the fir trees, the predominant tree in western North American forest, the die-off is so bad that the subtitle on the study was Firmageddon. Every single fir tree in western forest is in some stage of death or dying, all for the reasons you so correctly cited. So again, from every conceivable direction, Alex, the climate engineers are pounding the nails into our collective coffins. Every breath we take, every bite of food, every drink of water, everything.
Maybe the crew can find, I haven't played in about a year. We have like 10-minute ones, but maybe find like a 2-minute compilation of different AOC, Beto O'Rourke, King Charles. Oh, the Earth's going to die. If we don't depopulate in 10 years, we're all dead. And then meanwhile, we know this is one of the main contributing factors, and they're doing it, and they're demons. I don't know what else you're supposed to call these people. But the good news is, as you said, Dane, people are waking up.
They are. And mathematically, statistically speaking, the climate intervention, weather warfare, assault is the single most destructive human activity launched to date. Greatest and most immediate threat we face, sort of nuclear cataclysm. So for anybody that has anything to say about the environment from any perspective, if they're not dealing with this first and foremost, they're missing the point. If we can stop this, then we can focus on other issues. But bottom line, this has to stop first, Alex.
Just a minute or so before 2 minutes for break. I know you advised Kennedy, you're saying, you're telling me you need to get whistleblower protection, on and on. I mean, if Trump starts getting read in on this, which I know reportedly he is, he just needs to order its declassification.
That would be the biggest quantum leap we could take in the right direction. The state legislation is important. It puts it on the radar, and now we have, again, that cascade of wake up there. But if we need something federal on this, and if we had a Whistleblower Protection Act put in place, carved in stone, well publicized, then the agencies with an illegal federal gag order on them, National Weather Service and NOAA, starting with those two, there would be legions of people that would step forward. Alex, I had a NOAA scientist state to my face, quote, "We all know this is going on. We're alarmed as hell. We have no First Amendment protection. We don't know what to do," quote unquote.
Wow. So, remember, Trump ordered the JFK files all released. They didn't release 30% of them. And then now that's a whole other fiasco. I was talking to members of Congress off record just over the weekend, how pissed they are. There's hearings coming up with Anna Paulina Luna, who I was talking to, in a couple days. I'll leave it at that. They're going to be pretty spectacular. But that's just an example. He orders stuff released, and the bureaucracy just says, F you.
Yeah, because that's those who print the money control the levers ultimately at the top. What we're encouraging the climate science community to do, band together, stand up as one so that you're not picked off or stomped out. And it's time to do it now, because hiding in your cabin on the Titanic won't save you. So we're encouraging these people, again, stand together, stand up as one, while it can still make a difference, Alex.
Dane's statement there. We'll be back in 60 seconds. Geoengineeringwatch.org. Real geoengineering. Real geoengineering watch. We'll be right back. The 8th coin in the collectible series put out in the last 3.5 years is now available. I designed all the others.
Resistance to tyrants is obedience to God. It's Alex Jones.
Dane Whittington, the founder and head of geoengineeringwatch.org. The top expert on geoengineering in the world who's on our side is our guest. We're going right to your phone calls right now. HB in Tennessee. Then we're going to go to Miss Lou, Frank, Jordan, Robert, Dave, Joe, Mike, and many, many others. HB in Tennessee, you're on the air. Thanks for calling.
Hey, great show, guys. Good to talk to you again, Alex. Dane, I've been a fan of yours for years. I'm just giving out the last of the 500 of your cards that I got about a year ago. And just a big fan. What I called about was directed energy weapons and all the different fires we've had from Hawaii to California. Now we've had some over here in North Carolina, South Carolina. And it's just so evident that that's another form of your radiation, stuff that they're doing to us.
HB, thank you for standing with us in this battle, and thank you for the cards. Those are scannable so people can go straight to the dimming from their own phone and get the data quickly. As Alex correctly stated earlier, for the tornadoes, the cyclonic rotations, that the climate engineers established the conditions that will spawn that weather phenomenon. In the case of the fires, what most needs to be looked at here is what is establishing conditions for these fires to burn with such ferocity, and that is climate engineering. Regardless of the source of ignition for any of these infernos, climate engineering is the core causal factor establishing the conditions from the surface wind flows to the drying out of those regions to the incendiary dust that is climate engineering fallout. Aluminum nanoparticles being core to that. Such an effective incendiary is used in military demolition. So again, we encourage people to focus on the core of this issue. What is establishing the conditions for these events to take place? That's climate engineering.
And about the buildup of aluminum causing fires and everything.
It's a part of the equation. These are desiccant elements also, so they're drying out the surface. We know Lahaina, for example, was declared a flash drought region just prior to this event, and we've located at geoengineeringwatch.org a U.S. military document titled Wildfires as a Military Weapon. That's alarming enough by itself. It describes exactly the kind of preparation for.
And when you're in Hawaii, I've been going there for a long time, they all complain. They go, oh, we're told the trade winds changed. Now everything's drying out.
Yep, and that's described in this document. What's even more alarming is 17 locations inside the continental U.S. were studied in this document as target zones. Why would that be? L.A. was one, by the way.
All right, HB, thank you. I know this. We have all these globalists saying soon fires and climate change are going to kill everybody. All the cities are going to burn. Then they don't do fire mitigation, but things are also dried out. Then they drain the reservoirs. It goes on and on. Here is a short, and they come in with a 50-minute city, take it over, get the federal bailout money.
That's just Gavin Newsom.
Emergency that they investigate themselves.
That's just Gavin Newsom.
Newsom needs to go to prison. This is deliberate.
Thank you.
Criminal negligence. But here's a short minute-and-a-half compilation just of some of the fear-mongering, which again, then they're bringing in the climate manipulation to make it a reality. Then they blame us for the fact civilization collapses. Here it is.
I don't think that we are discussing climate change the way we need to be discussing.
How's that ridiculous?
We are in the midst of climate change right now, and it is only going to get worse.
The world is going to end in 12 years if we don't address climate change.
Because scientists also tell us have 12 years in which to answer that question. 12 years within which to act.
Like, this is the war. This is our World War II.
I'm
We have
acting.
12 years to turn this around.
We are less than 12 years away from not being able to undo our mistakes.
10 years that we have left to us.
Within the 10 years that we have left to us, we don't have more than 10 years to get this right.
A little more than 10 years from now.
There is no justice and there is no combating climate change without addressing what has happened to indigenous communities. I speak to you as a human being, a woman whose dreams of motherhood now taste bittersweet because of what I know about our children's future.
Bitch, you ain't gonna have no kids.
My childhood with your empty words. This is about our lives.
You lost count of abortions years
That
ago.
our community
Shut
will
up.
be uninhabitable, will not sustain human life along this current trajectory.
I am here to say our house is on fire.
It's a crisis that could, at its worst,
Oh,
lead
it
to
sucks 'cause
extinction.
you live on a ship. You live on a fucking yacht. So if your house is on fire, it's no good.
How dare you?
Barack and Michelle Obama, they are buying a house in Martha's Vineyard.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say house.
8
This
inches
is
above sea
a
level.
massive, incredible beachfront
Or
estate.
18 inches.
Dane, the talking point, that's just a small selection, is the world's
Where
going to
they're
end.
cooked
Well,
and
they, with the
gets found
policies, not
drowned.
just the geoengineering, but the policies
Proficient
are not environment
scuba
agencies set it
diver
up.
and
And then
surfer
they pose as the
in
saviors,
6
they
inches
consolidate
of
power,
water.
they control. What do you think of that?
Let me start with Gavin Newsom. I gave about a 45-minute presentation to Gavin in his office in the Capitol with his top aide. They couldn't dispute the data. They didn't even try. Has Gavin said a word about this? No. And as far as all the other characters that you just showed, there's no legitimate discussion of climate anything from any perspective without first and foremost addressing the single most damaging human activity of all, and that's climate intervention operations. I'm not denying we've been very poor stewards of the planet, but how can we address this subject and leave out the single most destructive factor, which is climate engineering, aka weather and biological warfare, Alex?
They're accelerationists. I've heard of right-wingers that want something to collapse faster to fix it. That's a terrible idea. All the scenarios show things getting worse and things collapse, not better. There's too many people, things are out of control, it'll end in giant war and death. So the Great Reset, from even their sick perspective, from the left wing, won't work either. We got to fix this, as Elon has said. But the globalists are accelerationists. They're trying to accelerate the collapse, have a controlled collapse, and it's really just an excuse to be mass murderers. Robert in Tennessee says he's a farmer, wants to talk about the weather and the sun and crops. Go ahead, you're on the air. Thanks, Robert.
Thank you, Alex. I appreciate it. I'll be brief because I know you got a lot of callers on this subject. I appreciate Mr. Whittington on this. Fourth generation farmer. We farm a little over 2,000 acres, about 2,300, and then we rent another 1,000. So we've got a lot going on. The problem I see, and like I said, this is fourth generation farmer. This has happened in the last 20 years or so. And what he's telling you is exactly what's going on. With our land, we rotate the crop. We don't grow the same thing in the same area every year. And every year before we plant a crop, we take soil samples of all the land that we're going to do. Send that to the University of Tennessee Extension Agency. They test it and send it back to us on what we should do as far as we do minimal spraying, pre-emergent. You have to keep some things down for your crop to grow. And they are finding in the land that we've had for so long in a 100-year-old farm, things that they have no idea or reason why things should be in the soil. I'm talking bacteria. I'm talking different acids, pH levels. I could get technical, and he probably knows exactly what I'm saying. But it's all come from what falls out of the air. And it's a constant battle what we have to do each and every year. Now, the heat, summertime, you walk out into a field now, Alex, and I'm telling you, you cannot stay in a field of corn, and it only be knee-high because of the heat and the burning of the sun rays on you. It takes a toll on our equipment. It takes a toll on the crops. It takes a toll on everything. He is exactly right. And I'd say in the last 20, 25 years, it has gotten really bad, really noticeable. And the people that say, that we send the soil samples to, they don't understand why this should be where it's at whenever we're rotating crops to combat that. I know.
Sure, you're saying you're doing it the same as you were doing it 50 years ago, but starting 20, 25 years when they accelerated geoengineering, because like I said, Dan, am I right to say this really went from beta to mass program in the mid-90s?
It did. You're exactly right again, Alex. 1998, which was the warmest year ever recorded up to that point in time. That's when they coined the term climate change instead of global warming, because they knew they'd be causing these flash chemical cool downs, and they wanted to blame that on climate change or global warming.
The word
they needed
climate
a different term. So they
implies
pretend
change.
that's part of the equation as well. It's not. If I can add something to Robert's statements there, VPD, vapor pressure deficit. Perhaps your editors might pull something up on that. That's a massive factor in everything he's talking about. So photosynthesis stops at 104 degrees, tapers down to that point, but stops at 104. The climate engineers can create a lens effect, which intensifies that UV radiation that Robert describes, in addition to adding more damage to the ozone layer as a whole. But the vapor pressure deficit is the respiratory pores on crops, trees. They shut when conditions are as we've just described, so they don't uptake carbon, they don't release oxygen. We don't have anybody in the environmental community discussing this and the effect from climate engineering. So again, hypocrisy from the environmentalist community, leaving out all these pieces of the puzzle.
Well, it's beyond that. They're all given marching orders compartmentalized. They don't know what's going on. On average, it's just a power grab. And so, everything's collapsing, and then the environmental movements to make sure nobody focuses on what's really going on as it clearly collapses. I can look at it. I don't need to read a science report. I can go all over the country and the world and see stuff. But I'm talking about where I've been since I'm a little kid, and I can look up, and say when I was 25, that's when I started seeing the chemtrails. And I can tell you that's right around the time I started seeing our land all die. It's not just ours. I go all over the state, and everything's dying, folks. The big trees are dying. The small trees are dying. Robert, what are you seeing with the trees there on your farm?
Well, we don't have a whole lot of trees. Just a few wood blocks every now and then. But it's flat land, open land, and something I want to add to Mr. Winston there is our cotton crop. We used to have different insects that would help us in those crops. Now you don't have as many. Those insects are gone. If you have any insects now, they are out to kill your crops.
Oh yeah. My grandparents still had some crops when I was a little kid. There would be swarms of ladybugs in the spring, and they didn't even need to use pesticide because they would eat all the aphids. Now, I never see ladybugs. Is that what you're talking about, Robert?
Exactly. And honeybees. Used to, you couldn't go out in the field without getting swarmed with bees. At the time that they were pollinating the crops. Now, you never see them. I don't know where they went.
All right, well, they're dead. I appreciate your call. Great caller. God bless you. We have to hold Dane over. We got to get to all these calls. At least 10 more minutes the next segment, but I'm going to make more calls. Here's the deal. Ladies and gentlemen, okay, you have to understand, okay, when I was a little kid, and still when I would go out to the ranch until I was about 25, in the spring, there would be so many ladybugs on the windows and everywhere, and all of your car, you get sick of them. You don't see them. Now when I see a ladybug, it is a huge event.
It's a big deal, yeah.
Okay? So I don't need to be a scientist. I can see this thing. This is genocide of life itself.
It is. This is a ubiquitous contamination of the entire planet, destruction of the planet's life-providing atmospheric layers from frequency transmissions and ozone-destroying, oxidating particles from every conceivable direction. This is the greatest assault on the web of life launched by the human race ever.
God help us. Wow. Dave in FEMA Region 9, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jones. I followed Mr. Wellington's work for the last, 10, 15 years maybe. I escaped the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania in '94, moved out to Arizona. And we used to say that we'd have 15 days of precipitation and at least 300 days of sunshine every single year. I'm looking outside my house now in Surprise, Arizona. I can barely see the sun. There's clouds and chemtrails everywhere. The one thing, the one bone I'd pick with Mr. Whittington, I think this is the second most important of the 30 different lines of attack against we the people. The first one is the direct attack, as you know, Alex, from all the swatting and stuff. I think the establishment class wants to kill us outright. But if they can't, they'll just poison us and our kids so the population dies. Appreciate all you guys do.
Well, I'm not trying to disagree with you, but a few people died from swatting, and it's a big hassle. I think the whole Earth's biosphere collapsing, and globalists trying to start nuclear war, and 30 million different poison shots. I got to say, I think the swatting is like isn't even on the scale.
No.
I'm not trying to lessen it. It's happened to my crew. It's happened to me. It's happened to my family. But look, I'd be ready. I'm not suicidal. I want to live, but I'd be ready to die right now to stop this. Sean in California, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, Alex, am I loud and clear for you?
Yes, you are. Go ahead.
Awesome. I got a lot of material here for you. If you remember, back in the day, Jesse Ventura's conspiracy theory show had a bearded guy take him through H.A.A.R.P. Called Moose Man. I've been on panels with that guy, and they lied to their people so much that Moose Man was telling us that H.A.A.R.P was actually to shoot radio signals off the atmosphere and then down in the Marianas Trench for our submarine during the Cold War. And he said if we wanted it to be like what Dr. Nick Vegas talked about, they would need nuclear power to do that. Well, less than 20 miles away is an Army base with a nuclear power plant. So this stuff.
Well, let's just stop. I mean, already that's actually true. General Parton, former head of Air Force Development and the former head of H.A.A.R.P, said on my show 25 years ago that what he told it was for was over-the-horizon ICBM detection shot over the North Pole from Russia and for communication with submarines. So it does have a communications component, but it also has an ionizing the atmosphere for weather manipulation, and that's on record. I'll keep going.
Completely agree. They are hitting us here in SoCal really bad. The Santa Ana Watershed Authority project was supposed to stop in 2022. They're still chemtrailing us. We even got drizzle today from them doing that. They hit us heavy yesterday with crisscross in the sky, and today. So us at DeJureForTally.org, we're trying to build up evidence in the case, and I've been telling people, let's go see what Dane has at geoengineeringwatch.com. Get that info because you got to build a case with this evidence. And guess what? If they take a taxpayer money to do this without asking the taxpayer, I think it's just the same thing as what Doge is doing. We have a right to audit these guys. What do you think, Alex?
No, I mean, we need to get Elon Musk to call for an audit of the secret geoengineering program. Thanks for the call. Dane, can you respond to that? I think we can get Elon on this.
Yeah, just want to designate or distinguish between the localized published weather mod operations and climate engineering. It's like comparing an ant to an elephant. And they use those local programs, single engine propeller driven aircraft, a few flares in the wings, to distract from the inconceivably larger, higher altitude climate engineering operations, which a KC-135 can carry up to 100 tons in a single payload. So,
and by the way, let me just interrupt you. You always bring this up, and I'm glad the caller kind of went there so we can talk about this. Constantly, you'll see local news go, well, there is some geoengineering. It's this local company with 5 planes that helps it rain so they get snow at the snow resort, at the ski resort. No, that's not what we're talking about. That's a red herring. Go ahead.
Correct. You're completely correct. You described that as good as it could be described, Alex. That's exactly what's going on.
And then everybody gets up in arms blaming the locals that, that make it snow at the ski resort.
Correct. And that is not this, and that is almost meaningless compared to climate engineering. Again, it's not. There's no good weather modification. Obviously, if you cause precipitation to come down in one place, however you did it, it didn't make it wherever it was going. So there's nothing good in any of this. But again, to put so much focus as some have on the localized weather mod programs, it's comparing an ant to an elephant. You're correct. It's used as a red herring. You're completely correct.
Again, I've forgotten so much. I know you've forgotten more than I would ever learn about this, but I remember having experts on, maybe even you, in a lot of documents 20 years ago about Department of Energy being at the center of this. I know it's hard to know because it's all black ops and black budget, but from my memory, or from any breadcrumbs you've got, what are the main, the Pentagon, obviously, what are the main agencies that it's being funded through, it's being run through? And the spray planes themselves.
And you're correct, though. The DOE it is listed on congressional docs, presidential documents, along with about 12.5 other federal agencies, all compartmentalized. Left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing, but the DOE is definitely mentioned in numerous documents. You're completely correct, Alex.
If we're building to understand compartmentalization, most people have some understanding. It's like a Lego set. You got one agency doing this, another agency doing that, contractors doing this. You'll have dozens of them, and they all programs seam in with the key people that know enough about each part of it, but still don't have the whole thing to have it run, and then no one except a few controllers knows what's happening.
Exactly right. Exactly what's going on. Was the pilot in Vietnam dumping Agent Orange, killing civilians, also killing his own comrades on the ground? Was he told that will kill your comrades on the ground? Of course not. And as far as our military brothers and sisters that are participating in these operations, they're certainly being told they're doing something benevolent, something for the greater good, which couldn't be further from the truth. So we need people to wake up, educate themselves, and hopefully in the case of military brothers and sisters, Alex, to stand down, stop participating in their own demise.
Yeah, I've talked to a lot of helicopter pilots from Vietnam, and they told them, oh, Agent Orange is harmless. But later, a lot of it got declassified. They weren't just spraying Agent Orange in many cases, and they wouldn't even tell them wear face mask, breathing apparatus. They were actually spraying synthetic neurotoxin on the Viet Cong, but also they were getting it as well.
Yep. Exactly right. So those in power clearly have never cared about military personnel. They're simply cannon fodder. And we need them to understand, again, in this case with climate engineering, they're participating in not only their own demise, the demise of their own posterity, but the rest of us as well. This is self-extermination.
Well, Henry Kissinger, in one of his own books, called the military dumb animals and cannon fodder.
Yeah, we need at this point, again, there's no shortage of information if people have simply a desire to look for it. Infowars has done an exceptional job of getting information out. We need them to understand if we don't stop, nothing else will matter soon.
Well, as negative as this all is, though, how many states are passing or have passed laws, and what states are the most effective with teeth? What can states do?
31 states. Florida is trying to up the penalties, and that effort is still ongoing. Tennessee has just tried, and that effort is stalled at the moment for upping the penalty, if you will. And we've had...
But the problem is it'll just ban local people trying to get rain for crops or whatever. And like you said, then the big dark projects will just ignore it.
Well, there's some exceptions in some of the states for localized weather mod programs, because that's not the hill to die on. It. There's farmers that feel that's to their benefit.
Sure.
They don't want to build to go through. So there is some exemptions for the small-scale programs because they're really not the problem that climate engineering is even close. But some states, I had an hour video conference call with the Speaker of the House from Utah to brief them on this issue, and there are some, again, that are starting to grasp the gravity and immediacy of this threat, Alex, and this will only keep growing. There's no hiding from this issue. I want to state that. You cannot put this issue in the rearview mirror like you can so many other issues, so people choose to ignore it if they can. Can't ignore this. This is pounding the nails into our collective coffins by the day.
I think it's safe to say there's a great awakening happening. Has it been your tireless work and others, and then other examples of it? I know that's part of it. Or is it COVID and people learning how much they were lied to and that was all a fraud at every level? Do you think that's what's causing this explosion of people now not being so naive?
All of that's a part of it, but again, exchanges like this and the courage that you've shown and Infowars to bring this issue to the full light of day, gloves off. And that's what it takes to push this to the forefront, pull the curtain back. So it's a combined effort, and my deepest gratitude to everyone.
But like you said, we don't have a choice. We're literally being killed.
You don't have a choice. We have to. This is the biggest hole in the bottom of the boat at this point, except for nuclear cataclysm. And even then, it's connected, Alex, because...
Hold on, stay there. Do a little bit more with us. I've only got 4 or 5 more callers. I want you to finish this point. Dane Whittington is our guest. Got to go to geoengineeringwatch.org. Got to follow him on X as well. This is so critical, folks. Stay with us. Thank God R.P. Jr.'s on this.